Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you can find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This will be a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe now. Also follow us on Instagram at the Oasis Podcast. That's TheOasis Podcast. Welcome back to the Oasis Podcast. Thank you all for joining us. Today we have back on the show our fan favorite, Miss Keesh.
Hey.
Hey, girl. You know, I haven't actually seen you in quite some time, you know?
Yes.
You know, it's been a little while. Messing around with COVID and such. But we'll get into all that, right?
Right?
Start off, what have you been? How's life been?
I've been good. There's been like several ups and downs, but I managed to be more up than the downs. So, but I've just been chilling, minding my business, drinking water.
Okay.
Yeah. How are you?
I have been great, actually. I just came from therapy, you know what I'm saying? Just going to therapy, like you said, drinking my water, minding my business. That's all I've been doing, to be honest with you. For real. Like, people been trying to insert themselves into my peace.
Disrupt your peace.
No. I haven't been allowing that, but I've really been good. And I mean that. Like, I really been good. I feel good. I've been good. Like, for real, bro.
Good.
So, today, we are getting into the topic of when things don't work out. Right?
Right.
And that's life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's been life. That's how it is. And I know this is a topic that you brought up because, you know, we all been going through some shit.
Right.
COVID, but definitely during COVID. So we got a lot to touch up
about,
right? But yeah, I mean, it's a part of life. Things don't work the fuck out, right? So for you, when you were thinking of the topic, like, what was the motivation for you wanting to talk about it?
I think the motivation stemmed from several failed attempts at getting work. And my realization afterwards of all those failed attempts and just trying to figure things out, but just kind of working past what I already built upon, like from removing myself from negative thoughts to being able to accept the circumstance, but not make it my last final destination. So when I was just thinking about the topic, I was like, oh, you know, when things don't work out, like, what have I learned during this time period before I end up going into another phase of my life, which is gainful employment, possible relationships, etc., etc.
Okay. So I know, you know, this week, the podcast, well, by the time y'all see this, it won't be this week. But anyway, episode 15 of the podcast is struggles in, you know, the professional world. And we've talked about, at least you talked about, we all talked, you, myself, and Vision, we talked about things that had transpired, you know, with all of us in, you know, at work, essentially. And from that episode, you gave a little preview about kind of the stuff that had been going on with you professionally.
Yeah.
Right? And I think there was an episode, of course, after that where we also touched on kind of how it culminated, right? You like leaving that particular job and all that. So you want to talk about, since kind of that, what path you've been on, give kudos to yourself for your graduation and all that other good stuff, because a lot has happened in these past few months. So
right. Yeah, a lot has passed. I graduated.
Okay. Making
Woohoo!
out here in these streets.
You know, I think I was trying to get employment right away because it's so funny is how we always say that we try not to conform to society rules, and providing and getting gainful in employment is like one of the standard society rules because you don't want to be deemed as lazy and stuff like that. But how does that rule serve you? Like me trying to get a job right away, did it serve me? At this moment, it didn't, because it was just like I'm trying to get employed just for the status of being employed and being busy instead of just kind of working through that uncomfortable space. So after like a lot of failed interviews and a lot of like, I was in a ton of final round interviews, it just didn't work out for me. And I just kind of took a step back and just kind of figure out why. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I'm at, to the point where I'm like, oh, work is ghetto. I don't even want to go to work no more.
It is the ghetto.
It's ghetto. And especially during the pandemic, it's like, it's even more ghetto. And I'm just learning to appreciate the space I am at this moment of time instead of just going into work. Because I was the one that was fortunate enough to receive the extra $600 a week. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I'm like, dope. They ain't my money, it's the government money. I'm gonna keep it, but then
it's your money if you pay taxes.
If you know, when you pay taxes, you know, gainful employment. Just giving your money back.
That's it.
I was getting my money back. You know, I'm a career criminal, but you know. But I thought that for me was like, I was undeserving of that. Like, I don't want to be that statistic of getting that money and just laying around. It was just like, I'm trying to get a job. I'm trying to be able to actualize my goals, and I can't actualize my goals if I'm unemployed. So this time, this pandemic, this dark ages that we are living in, it just allowed me to be like, chill.
Yeah, I think when all this started, that shit sucked ass. Like, this shit sucked, right? Mm-hmm. It sucked. But as it started to move, the months started rolling by, I really started to see it as like a hidden blessing. Mm-hmm. There was so much. I had time to sit still, and I thought I was sitting still before. I would give myself moments, to myself, be quiet, whatever. But this time, you forced to really, really sit with yourself. Mm-hmm. And the fact that couple that now with going to therapy and now being forced even to dig even further deeper in. Mm-hmm. I really see this time, and this time really has been like a hidden blessing. Like, a lot of things ain't worth the fuck out.
Okay. A
lot of things ain't work out.
A lot.
However, like, how I received it, how I processed it, is so different than I think I would have.
If I was busy.
Right. If it was a different time. Mm-hmm. If I was busy with work and this and that and third. Work has been busy, though. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, that shit was busy for quite some few months. It finally calmed down. But it was super busy, but I still had time to myself. Like, as you all know, I had my breakup very early on in COVID, and really going through that, navigating being a friend or not being a friend with my ex, trying to find new employment, essentially, right? Because I feel like I kind of outgrown the position that I feel that I currently am in. Trying to build relationships with people, right? Trying to create new relationships with people, either friendships, family, just in general, right? Networking professionally. It's been a lot, and some things crashed and burned, but I feel a lot of things went well, and that's really because of the perspective, changing the perspective that I was looking at things through, and I was able to sit with things a lot better, a lot more. And I know you mentioned, feeling like you had to live up to society's norms, feeling like, you were sitting and just collecting his money and not earning it, even though it was your money that was given back to you. Right. Do you feel there was a portion of that might have been you feeling like the guilt part was feeling like also had to do like you feeling like you was an imposter in a way, like imposter syndrome?
Almost definitely, because, and it's so funny you brought that up because I was talking to a friend about that the other day. It's like a fraud in a sense. Like you know that you have the skills and you know that you're deserving of what you're receiving. But I felt like a fraud in that deserving because did I really deserve it? Did I really earn this? And during the pandemic, I was just like, oh, I'm going to find a new job. I'm going to be doing this and this and that. And not really sitting down and kind of figuring out, why am I feeling like I'm a fraud? Why do I feel like I don't deserve what I actually want?
After earning a second master.
After earning a second master.
Working your ass off for a job that did not appreciate you.
It's mind-blowing because I always feel that when you work hard and you hold yourself to a level of integrity, that everything will come down your way. And because during the pandemic, I was just collecting the unemployment, I didn't feel a level of integrity. Yes, it was cool. Like, I got this money. I was chilling. But then it was like, do I really deserve this money? There's other people that needs this money more than me. And here I am sitting down, collecting all of this money, stashing it because of either a rainy day or trying to secure a new home. And I feel like a fraud. I'm going for 2 masters, and why am I feeling like a fraud? Why am I feeling like I have all this education, all this experience, but why do I feel like a fraud in this sense? And I had to unpack that and just try to navigate the real reason why. And it just came from a television show. It said, like, we live up these standards of what society rules as deeming and perfect, and you're holding yourself from the bootstraps, and you're carrying yourself up, and being a daughter of immigrant parents, it's like, okay, you adopt that mentality of working your way up because your mother and your father worked their way up. So for me working my way up, I shouldn't just receive all these benefits just freely. I should be able to work for these benefits. Yeah. So I had to be like, okay, let me just start unraveling it, then starting to unravel why I feel like a fraud, then unravel the deeper level of feeling like a fraud, and then come to the root of it. It's like, maybe I'm afraid that something I really want will actually happen. And maybe that success. And maybe I should sabotage this way because I already could say, well, it didn't work. And it sucked. One thing I could tell people is when you go for your social work degree, it makes you think so much about you, your trauma, or whatever trauma you have, or what triggers you have. I don't necessarily have trauma, but I have certain triggers. And it's like, oh. And it allows you to see a third person point of view.
they say that most people who go into the field of either social work or psychology, psychiatry, they tend to be trying to fix themselves, and that's why they go into the fields to fix other people. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So like that's interesting that you say. Yeah, it makes you think, and I think it's done on purpose. So like when I always say, and this had been said before, but I truly really believe this, is that once you really truly get to know yourself and can see yourself, that's when you can really see other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably why you probably, you did just get your master's again in social work. Pick it up. And that gave you extra tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
To kind of dig deeper to yourself. But that's always also been part of you, right? Like sit down with yourself, trying to figure it out. Now you just have extra tools to do it. But I think this time for everybody, these past few months,
was the time exactly to sit down,
to sit your ass down
and kind of figure and look into yourself. Because I think I'm sorry, but even if I was busy, I would just ignore certain things. I would ignore, but like me actually sitting down, you have no place to go. You have to do a lot of reflection, but sometimes with the reflection is the third point of view. So it's like, for example, like if I was thinking of, well, why did this work with a guy? You could sit back and reflect and say, oh, well, sis, you are type intimidating or type annoying. And you keep badgering this particular person to see you or see a view of a relationship that was done for the longest time. Why can't you accept that? And with that revelation of allowing yourself to sit and be still and sometimes hear your voice talking to yourself, but also hear God's voice, you could be like, all right, I'm good.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, even for the essential workers, right? That those people who had to go to work, it was work and then home. There was nothing else to distract you, right? Mm-hmm. Outside of what TV, how much of that can you really, really watch, right?
Right.
After a while, eventually, you're still going to have to sit with yourself. And I think that was probably the hardest part for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Like having so much time, but then having to sit with yourself, and then you sit with yourself, and now it's like, now what? What do I do? And if, again, you can take this time to do whatever. I'm not going to shame people on how they took their time. But I think this was a great time to sit down and really unpack a lot of shit, like what you said, and then find the things that really make you tick, right? Get into the root of those things, but also taking a look at the things that maybe the goals you had, maybe the boundaries you had, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe just other things that you were not honoring, right? And trying to figure out, how can I honor those things now?
And I think it's a way of kind of looking at the identity that you had hold for yourself in particular spaces, the identity that you hold for yourself and in a space that is particularly your own, because the identity that you show to the world is vastly different than the identity that you show to yourself and your family. And it just kind of like, it gave that time to reflect and see relationships, friendships, and things that you wanted to work out that didn't work out, or a new eye view. And appreciating that eye view. And also giving yourself grace for shit that, didn't go through. And just be able to say, you know what, thank God it didn't go through, because
it wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me, but also it wasn't something that I could grow from. I always tell myself, give yourself grace. I tell everyone, I'm like, give yourself grace, because we are living, like I said, in the dark ages, and we need time to just satisfy our own needs instead of satisfying the needs of everybody else around me. Even if you feel like you're going to ruffle some feathers, that is okay, but you give yourself grace in doing so, because you know what? Giving yourself grace will allow you to honor your own peace.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. So during this time, which was a very isolating time, right? For a lot of people. And if you're going through, these ups and downs, these changes, I went through a breakup, losing a job, graduating, trying to find a job, trying to network, maybe start a business. It was difficult. Those were difficult things to deal with in this type of situation that we were in. How do you feel? Let me rephrase that. All those things on top of COVID, right, can make us feel really isolated. Feeling like I got to deal with this on my own. No one's going to understand, or people are dealing with too much. I'm not going to burden them type situation. How did you kind of deal with what you were going through? And though we were quote unquote isolated, not isolating yourself. Or did you? Did you feel like it was necessary?
I think it was necessary for me to isolate myself because I felt like it was a retooling of myself.
Okay.
I didn't want to bring what I went through into a specific space where it was supposed to be happy and jovial. And I had to honor my feelings of that. Like, I'm not feeling happy. I am not feeling jovial. So there's no reason for me to be in that space. But I do learn from that mistake, because once I restrain myself from isolation, once I stop restraining myself, from isolation, that energy feeds me to be in a better space mentally and emotionally. Because I'm here thinking like I'm I'm so dramatic, the scum of the earth, because I ain't got no job and all this stuff. And then a week or two later, it was just like, you was rushing for what? A job?
The ghetto.
The ghetto. Working is ghetto. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Collect your unemployment and watch Fatal Attraction. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Because it took me restraining myself, not restraining, isolating myself to come to that point. It allowed me to be better in the friendships and the relationships that I was holding.
Okay. You want
it's a good thing. It's a good and bad thing, because once you isolate yourself, it's like you against the world is against me. You don't want to be bothered with people's successes. You get upset and blah blah blah. But then when you stop isolating yourself and include yourself in the world, you could realize that everything that is good for the goose is not always for the gander. And I think for me, I was just so
comparing and stuff.
Yeah, but in my isolation from everyone, it was just more of understanding why I felt so bad about not gaining employment. And it's because I don't like to feel uncomfortable. And that part of being uncomfortable kind of leads to me not wanting to be in this specific zone that I'm in. And I think being uncomfortable was my pushing past my comfort zone. That was it. Like, how uncomfortable, how unsettling this time was. It was me saying, I don't like it and I need to fix it right now, because I need to feel comfortable. And I have to be like, no, stay uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's giving you and it's gaining some peace that you've been trying to run away from a long time.
So, yeah, exactly what you said. You're absolutely right. Like, as people, we don't like feeling uncomfortable, right? To us, it's like, but why? When I could be comfortable. And now understanding that, in the mental health world, they, if something happens and it hits a client a particular way, you just be like, sit in that uncomfortability, right? Like sit in that, really feel it, right? And then see, and it's, but in sitting in that, one, you can experience the whole feeling, but then you can better be able to describe it in the why, right? Like, why do I feel uncomfortable? And people really want to skip that process of sitting in uncomfortability.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about it, everything that we've experienced, think about it. Everything that we've experienced, let's say biologically, we had to be uncomfortable before we got to be the who and what we are now, right? So when you go into puberty, right? When we were growing taller, we were growing wider, big, whatever, we were, puberty was uncomfortable. That, I don't know about y'all, but it was the most uncomfortable feeling for me. Like, it was uncomfortable. You know, growing, my bones hurt, like just feeling awkward and just feeling weird in that weird space. I was super uncomfortable because what the child I was then, I know I wasn't what I was supposed to be yet, but I knew I wasn't what I was anymore. And so I was in this space of, what am I becoming? And it felt weird because I couldn't hold on to it. I couldn't grasp it because I didn't know what it was. And just also thinking about it, that, but in the same way, thinking about a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, right?
Yeah.
It has to be uncomfortable in a dark, cold space that it's never been in before, but it has to trust, right?
Yeah.
It has to trust in Mother Nature. It has to trust. We have to trust in God. We have to trust in ourselves that we're going to
trust
out
the process.
And come out the other end what we want to be. And exactly what you said. You have to trust the process. You have to trust. It sounds cliche, but you have to trust the process. Understand, and it's temporary. It's going to be temporary.
I feel like I always tell people, trust the process, because, you know, it allows you to be in a greater level of self. And it's so easy to provide that advice, but it's hard to follow your own damn advice.
It's true. When you in it, you don't want to hear none of that shit.
I don't want to hear nothing. Give me a fucking job and shut up. You know? But then, like, I remember hearing myself saying these things, and I'm like, but why are you so afraid of this process? Like, and I realized, like, me in the isolation period, it was just like I was looking for jobs just to look for jobs and just being a pretender, knowing that these jobs would not allow me to grow in any separate way, because my initial plan was to be a school social worker. And I was just like, but why? And I'm like, because it's comfortable. And then I'm like, but why is it comfortable? Because you did it before. But why can't you do something else? And that was something that I had to wrestle with, because it was just like, I could provide school counseling. I could provide college counseling. I could do all these things and follow the process, but why can't I follow a different area of social work that I never even thought I would go?
Yeah.
And because of that isolation, it allowed me to understand that I just want to be comfortable and just get to a place of stagnation. I need to be higher than that. I need to be in a different level, a different frame from that. So I started pushing myself to other jobs that I would never thought of applying. I just started reapplying back to jobs, and it's going well. And
intentful, though.
I'm being more intentful, but I'm also being more truthful and being more honest with myself in these interviews. One of the interviews I had just before you, meeting with you, it was for a geriatric company. And I never worked with geriatrics before. Never provided mental health to geriatrics at all. And I remember talking to the interviewer, and me and her were just going back at it. We were just feeding off each other. And she was just like, you know, give me something about you that is a challenge. Like, what do you think you could work on? And I always said the same generic shit before, like, you know, I wanted to make sure that I could speak well and this and that. And I remember telling her, I was just like, no, like, I feel like sometimes my candidness offends people. And I need to reframe that, because if that person is candid to me, how would I take it? I would be offended. So I need to work on it. And I was telling her something of the sort like, I have to give myself grace because even though I feel like I don't deserve this, and she said, I never heard those answers before, and I truly appreciate you because you are aware of yourself. And that clicked for me. It was just like, oh, I'm aware of myself because now I know my challenges. I know who I am, what I'm about, and what I could bring. And if it works for me, great. If it doesn't work for me, good, because you know what? I take this experience and say, all right, I've been rejected countless times, but me handling these rejections is better than what I thought I deserved before.
So it sounds like, you've been doing some growing out here, girl. I see you shining.
It's the cocoa butter.
Okay.
The cocoa butter.
So what gems would you drop for those listeners who maybe they now going through this process, or they've been going through it this whole time and they haven't been able to figure it out? What gems or what things did you find helpful or useful that you think that you can kind of lay on somebody else to help them through their own process?
Well, restrain from isolation, because it is a solo journey that you're on of reflecting and changing in the process, because change doesn't happen overnight, but you don't have to go it alone. And when you go it alone, yes, you could find the greatest jewels in the world, but it would never be diamonds. So, restrain from that isolation. You deserve. Stop feeling guilty about what you deserve.
Right.
If you got that extra money, you deserve that extra money. Shut the fuck up and take it. Jesus Christ, I've been telling myself every time, and I'm like, no. Now it's just like, well, let me just put this in my tent.
I'll take that.
And, I saw something that I like, I want to buy. Push past your comfort zone. Just go past that comfort zone. Even when you feel so uncomfortable in the space that you're in, because it's something that you experienced before, but you're trying to get out of, just sit in it. Just sit in that uncomfortable zone and just acknowledge it and learn from it, because that uncomfortable zone can help you with various relationships that you have in your life and the relationship that you have with yourself. Talk to yourself. Even if you feel like you're crazy, talk to yourself. It doesn't have to be out loud.
Just a little bit.
We all crazy. Me watching this Fatal Attraction, I could be like, yeah, I could have done this differently. I could commit this murder differently, But talk to yourself. Even if it's not out loud, just, sit in and just say, why are you feeling this way? Or, I'm proud of you because there's something that you normally run from and you're not running from it now. Give yourself grace. Like, if you feel like you don't want to work out that one day, don't feel guilty that you didn't work out. Just understand that you didn't work out, and that is fine. You're allowing yourself rest, because what you do today is going to be different tomorrow. No, you're going to be the same way. It's just more of fine tuning. So just give yourself grace. I feel like I have a lot of gems. Stop forcing stuff to happen. Stop forcing it to happen. I mean, the signs were there from the beginning, and you're trying to work around the signs. It's not going to work for you. Stop forcing it to happen. Just, if it was meant to be, it will always come back to you. And if it's meant to die, let it die. Don't try to revive it. Don't try. Or if it does by chance come back into your life, handle it differently than the way you handled it before. It's okay.
It cannot be okay.
It's okay to not be okay, but don't punish yourself or feel like it's a consequence because of some stuff that you've done in your past. Don't feel like you're being punished. Yeah, you're not being punished. You're at a place because you're there for a reason.
Yep, there's a lesson to be learned. Yeah.
And there's a lesson to be learned, but it's also a growth that needs to happen. I think the biggest one that I have learned is just because you may want it to grow with you doesn't mean you have to stand by it. That goes from relationships, friendships.
Break that down a little bit.
So, all right, I could give you a snippet of story. I had a connection to this high-ranking job, and all the signs was pointing to me to get this job. It was my past internship. The people was contacting me in regards to this position. And even though I was overqualified for the position, I still wanted it because I don't really care for the money because I always have money. But it's just more of experience to get me to where I need to go. And it's like a starting point for me. And I did the interview. I did everything. Everything was done right. And I didn't get the job. And this was my internship. This was my last internship before COVID. I didn't get the job. Yeah, they kept forcing me to take this job. Like, they kept calling me saying, hey, we really want you to apply for this position because, we know you overqualified, but we're looking for a person for this temporary role. So I said, okay, no problem. I'll do it because in my head, y'all already gave me the job and I'm going to be out of this job and I'm doing my jiggly dance. They was pushing me. They was like, yeah. And I didn't get the job. I did not get the job. They gave it to someone who worked there, I believe, 2-3 years prior that before I came. And it hurt like hell because it was like, how you're telling me to apply for this position? You make me dress up in my house to be interviewed for this position. And then you turn around. I didn't even find out until like several weeks later from the person who interviewed me. But I found out a week after I did the interview from the case manager saying that, no, they're going to let this other one get to the position. And I think it's so messed up. And I was just like, mind blown, like how a connection of mine just turned out to be as faulty as the other interviews that I've been on. And
so how do you connect it to that gem?
To the gem of, because I wanted to grow with it. I wanted to grow in that particular way where they could see me and say, oh, we want to keep her and use her at a different capacity. That doesn't necessarily mean I have to stand by that capacity.
So pretty much letting go of the plan, essentially, or letting go of I'm going to say dream too, because sometimes we have a dream and we think it's going to happen. It's not for us. It literally should be that. It should stay in your mind. It should just be a dream, right? It's letting go of that but letting go of the dream so that you can actually get to what you're that you want to get to.
Exactly. I said, and sometimes that dream is a roadblock. We always think that dream is like the ideal place that we want to, and we could stand by it and we could grow at, but it's also a roadblock for us. It's a roadblock to where we ought to be. So that's why I said sometimes we want to grow with it. It doesn't mean we have to stand by it. It's nothing for us to stand by.
Yeah.
Why would we stand by a roadblock if we are allowed to move past it and continue our journey to a better place of financial stability, loving yourself, and enjoying the environment around you?
Absolutely. I think for me during this time, two main things that I think people to carry with them is really be okay and take the time to sit with yourself. Not with anybody else, not with TV, not with your bestie, not with the boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, your dog, yourself. By yourself.
Right.
Take time to honor that. And I think people really overlook that piece of it. When you're going through anything, good times and bad times, to sit with yourself and really just allow yourself to feel it fully. And the second thing I think was essential for me when things just didn't work the fuck out is gratitude. Being gracious. Being thankful. In the moment, it sucks. It fucking sucks when it's like, oh shit, another breakup. Oh shit, another person that I don't talk to no more. Or I didn't get this thing. But really sit with that, and in your moment of sitting with it, and understand, what are you being protected from? Right? Like, what could have came from that situation if you did go further? You know, how would you have changed? Right? How would things have been so different for you? And appreciate what you do have, as opposed to focusing on what you don't have. I think I've done so much, given so much praise, and have sat in so much gratitude. That's why now I literally move and I feel so much happier in life. Because every day I feel good. Like, I feel great. And people look at me like, oh, you look different. You see that glow? Okay. That's gratitude. That is grace I give given myself, and I know I've received. And I feel happy knowing that I appreciate everything that I've experienced, good and bad.
Yeah.
And I wake up with that mindset of, regardless of what happens today, I'm going to be happy at the end of the day, because I'm choosing to be happy. And I also know that I am being held and protected in a way that I never was, or I never was able to accept. You know?
It's like you're giving yourself the peace and the grace that you was seeking outside.
Yeah.
And you're just giving yourself your own. And I totally agree with that, because sometimes sometimes in these dark ages, and sometimes in these reflections, I just sit down and be like, oh, why can't I do this? And I'll be like, no, let's switch out that negative thinking and saying, I can't do this. It's just not going to work at the way that I want to work at.
Or what do I need to learn right now for me to do this?
And what do I need to sit and learn from this whole experience? Like, sometimes we not perfect. We ain't shit. You know, we ain't shit. We ain't perfect. We ain't that, centerpiece of perfection. We are not shit. We are not. But we are able to honor that and not try to change it so we can lean towards that perfection. Sometimes we are beautiful when we are imperfect.
There's beauty in imperfection. Yeah.
And there's beauty in that imperfection. Yep. And learning to be imperfect allows you to be like, okay, how can I be a better friend and a better human being while I'm sitting and reflecting? And it took me redoing my vision board to be like, I was looking and I was just like, oh, I want to get this and this. And I was like, no, let me write this, how to be a better human being, how to be a better friend. And I wrote down what I need to be, and I wrote down what I need to be, but also what I learned to be too. And I matched those things up, and I was just like, okay, I have my perfect list of what I need to be as a better friend and a better human. And I've been learning to navigate with that and just appreciate these dark ages. I keep calling them dark ages because it's dark ages, For
our time, probably. Well, no, that's not true. Not our time. For a lot of people's time, this is the dark ages. We've experienced a lot of shit, our generation. So this is another one on the list for us. But the younger kids.
Look, let me tell you something. I used to call it the ends of days. And I was just like, let me do an uplift. The uplift is the dark ages.
Girl. But the silver lining is you are here. We are here. We made it through. And this is not to take it lightly, because There's people who have passed away
Yeah.
who are not here in this moment today with a job, without a job. They ain't got no breath in their body. Okay?
Yeah.
They're not here sitting here recording no podcast. They're not sitting here able to even complain. So
right.
that's I'm always gracious for. I got breath in my body.
Yeah.
I can move. I can breathe on my own. I am fine. I don't need nothing else. Okay?
Yeah. Every morning I say my prayers. I'm saying, you know, thank you, God, because you kind of took me in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And you allowed me to have another breath in my body and another purpose in my walk. And you allow me to see certain things that I envisioned and planned for my life that wasn't in your plan. And I appreciate you and I love you because my plans are never your plans. And your plans supersede mine in a way of growth, love, honor, and peace. And I thank you, Lord, because you the shit.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, we're going to leave it off right there. Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and like us on Instagram at the Oasis podcast. If you have any questions or comments, direct message us on Instagram or email us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. Again, that's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com.